If you're planning on doing some spinnerbaiting, whether it's for bass, walleye, even pike, you're well off if you get the right rod and reel outfit so that you can feel more hits and hook more fish. Now, two of the outfits that I'm holding in my hand are both designed for using spinnerbaits. One is a bait casting outfit, and this is the new Avantis outfit combo, very affordable, works really well, casts well. And the other one is the R-type. They're both split grip rods. This is the spinning rod and reel with the Avantis reel. You can see that I've got pretty well the same size spinner baits. This is a 3/8 ounce spinner bait on there and on there as well. Just one is a striking color when fish aren't feeding, and the other one is a feeding color. You see the blades are a natural color. Okay, so what constitutes a good spinnerbait rod? Well, you have to have the length so that you can cast well even when it's windy, and you have to have enough spine so that when you hit some vegetation, because when you're using spinnerbaits, for the most part, you're either fishing around weeds, just random weeds along the shoreline, or weed beds, and pretty well every once in a while you're going to clip the weeds. So you want to have enough spine in the backbone of the rod that when you jerk it, it's going to rip through the weeds so that you can continue your presentation, especially if you think there's fish in the area. Now, one of the things that helps to do that is to use a braided line, and on both the spinning outfit and the bait casting outfit, I'm using the 15-pound titanium braid, which is 4-pound monofilament diameter. It's really thin. I'm sure you can barely see it right there, okay? So because there's no stretch, that also helps you in ripping through the weeds and also in getting a very good hook set. All right. You know, that's 3 fish off this point, and it amazes me. A lot of fishermen don't like to fish when there's cold front conditions, but on this particular day, you know, we said we were going to come out here, and I figured that spinnerbaits would work well. You know, we're in July, and to be able to come out when you've got really stormy weather and strong winds, and be able to cast spinnerbaits like this and get pretty decent fish. This largemouth, you know, is just under 3 pounds. And you'll see when I get him up, he just inhaled this spinnerbait. See if I can lift him up. Looks like he wants to jump again. So you're gonna jump? Okay, beautiful. Now you can see, look, the spinnerbait actually went out the side and hooked him back up. See how well he hit that spinnerbait? And how chunky this fish is? Nice size largemouth. I could catch these fish all day long. You know that when it comes to professional bass fishing tournaments, more tournaments are won using spinnerbaits. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the spinnerbait that I'm using because of the construction. Most spinnerbaits are made out of stainless steel wire, and that's fine, but a lot of times when you're fighting a fish, and especially when you lift the fish up with your line or your rod the way I have been, the spinnerbait will change configuration. It'll get all bent. This particular spinnerbait is a Terminator, and it's made out of titanium wire. And you know from hearing about titanium, titanium has no memory, so it's very springy. So even if I get a large pike and he twists in the line and tries to bend my spinnerbait, he won't bend it. Now, as far as colors go, you can see that I haven't gone to a really gaudy spinnerbait. I'll just show you here on my other rods that I've got set up. I've got some pretty bright colors. You can see that on this one, I've got a white blade, painted blade, and a yellow painted blade, and a yellow body. On this particular one, same thing. See how bright those are? But the one that I've been getting my fish on, look, is very natural colors. It's like a light green with a little bit of white, silver head, and the blades aren't painted. These are like a Colorado blade. One is silver and one is gold. The reason I've done that is I believe that the fish that are moving on these windy points are actually feeding. So I don't have to make them strike. Because you see, these colors are very unnatural. When you get into chartreuse and very bright colors like that, there's no food that they're feeding on that's that color.
Fishing Girl! Adventures in your own backyard!
Girls, this is probably one of the easiest lures to use in fishing when you want to fish close to the bottom, and it catches almost everything that eats other stuff, okay? It's called a jig. So this is actually a sinker. I'm going to take it apart. That's a jig or jig head. And this is a 3-inch plastic grub. I'm just going to put it on here like so, okay? And you'll notice that I've put this on so that the tail is above the hook. I've done that because when this jig hits the bottom, you're usually jigging with it. You lift it off the bottom, let it fall down. Lift it off the bottom, let it fall down. The reason that I have the tail sticking up, if you were to pull it along the bottom, if the tail was pointing down, it wouldn't have any action because it would hit the ground. But because the tail is up, this twister tail does, guess what? Twists through the water. So it works really well. So sometimes this appears like a crayfish, if it's a black or brown color to fish. If you use white or yellow, it could look like a minnow to a fish. So it doesn't matter whether this lure is dropping, that tail is working around, whether it's sitting on the bottom like this, the tail is still moving a little bit, or you're lifting it up, the tail is moving. So it's a very easy lure to use because all you do is you cast it out, let it sink to the bottom. When it sinks to the bottom, you pick up your line and lift it up, let it sink, lift it up, let it sink. And sooner or later, you'll go to lift up and fish. You'll have a fish on, okay?